Hello and welcome back to the channel where we are going to discuss something that's kind of a little bit of a controversy. And that is, which chainsaw is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre chainsaw? Which one is it? Is it the Poulan 306A or is it the Poulan 245A? So the way this goes, guys, somebody wrote an article. It's online, and you know, whoever's watching this, maybe you are a mega fan of slasher films or just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films or whatever. Or you're one of my regular viewers that watch because of my basic chainsaw content. But someone wrote an article way back, probably, I looked it up one time. I feel like the article was written around 2010. And they stated that the chainsaw used in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, which was, I believe, 1971, whenever it came out, maybe 72 or 1970. Anyways, I'm a little fuzzy on when it came out. But they wrote an article about the saws that were used in the films. And they quoted that the 306A was in fact the saw used in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And ever since then, this gets a lot of credit for being the saw used. And there are other people out there that are going, no, this is the saw. Well, right here in this video, I'm going to clear it up for you what it is. First off, you've got to lend some credit to who I am. I am a chainsaw aficionado, and I like chainsaws. I work on chainsaws. I modify chainsaws, and I have fun doing it. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about my other side. All right, I actually have a bachelor's in film and video. And I went to school for it. I graduated, and I have actually been on several TV and movie sets. Not a whole lot. I found quickly that that wasn't my route. I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I needed to stay at home, so I took a regular job with a large corporation making their safety videos and stuff like that. So it's not like I have a glamorous Hollywood career. But I have been on several sets, and I know how it works. Basically, if they can't buy it at the store, it pretty much doesn't exist unless you are talking about a very specific big budget film that has the ability to create whatever they want. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as well as all slasher films, operate on a shoestring budget. And if they can't buy it at the store, they don't get it. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing that I know is that movie people, those who write movies, and largely people who exist in that world, creating them, the crew, everything, don't know jack about anything mechanical. And there's a reason why I'm talking about this. I'll bring it up here in a second. But if you're a car guy or girl and you ever watch car movies and you go, what the hell did they just say? Oh, the dingle hopper needs to be pushed, and Fast and Furious is really horrible about having the worst automobile lingo that there is. I mean, they're just terrible. People do not talk the way that they talk. And the reason this is happening is because A, the actors don't know what to say, so they can't correct the writers who don't know what to say whenever they write mumbo jumbo that's supposed to sound like a gearhead talking. Whenever they say, oh, the piston dish canned all the way to the Wazamagoo, and you're like, what are you talking about it? I mean, shut up. In Fast and the Furious, whenever they're racing and they're going, "Rrr," and this guy goes, oh gosh, I better give it some more fuel. Rrr. A race doesn't happen that way. One person goes and wins, and that's it. But that's not exciting to put in a film. So my point in saying all of this is that people on and around movie sets in large don't have a clue about anything mechanical. Whenever I watched Ford versus Ferrari, I was really impressed. I was like, they got a few things wrong for sure, but somebody did their homework and somebody really had the proper lingo in there whenever they were talking about the cars. And that's a different kind of race. You can swap leads in that. But anyways, so the reason I bring this up is because there's been some people that point out that it could be a 306A with a 245A top cover on it. Okay, so here we go. The meat and potatoes of it. First up, what do I think is the chainsaw that was used? Absolutely, hands down, there is no alternative. If you think other than this, you're wrong. It is the 245A. This is the saw that Leatherface uses in the 1971 or so film. And there is no questions to be asked. There's no argument to be had. If you think that it is the 306A, you are blatantly wrong. So, now, a little bit about these saws. 306A came out first. I think that it came out somewhere around 1968, 67 maybe, probably 68, 69. There you go. It came out, and it is what it is. It's 59 cc's, I believe, and it was basically Poulan's premier chainsaw at that time, okay? But then, very shortly after, just a couple years later, the 245A came out. Now this one is 74 cc's, I believe, so substantially larger, but not in size. They are actually identical in size, with one exception, and that is this top cover. The 306 has a flat top cover. The 245A has this slightly rounded top cover that is taller and it's rounded, and it kind of, to me, looks like a humpback whale. Or maybe it's a sperm whale. I don't know. Jeez. So, some people have said that, well, it could be a 306A with a 245A top cover because these saws are actually the same chassis and everything. So all of the parts are interchangeable between the two saws. And okay, yes, that could have happened. However, I know that it did not happen. Oh, how did you know this, Bodie? Were you on the film set in 1970 for the 71 release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? No, I was not there. However, as I said before, I've been on several sets. Several different sets, movies and TV shows. And like I said, the folks that are on those sets don't know a dang thing about anything mechanical. It's so bad, as a matter of fact. Listen to this. You have on sets, you have an electrician, right? That's his or her title, an electrician. Okay, so well, you think, wow, okay, they got a certified electrician on set. Nope. There's no certification there. Oh, well, but they're still an electrician, right? Nope. They're not. They're not an electrician. They are just simple people that fell into that role. Now, I ain't talking bad about them or anything, but I'm trying to explain the knowledge that is on set. And as far as blue-collar type of knowledge, it doesn't exist. The closest to it is a grip. You have your grip, which is just a general handyman type of guy. And you have your key grip, which is the same exact thing. He's just been doing it a little bit longer. So the folks just literally don't know anything. I swear, I've been on a set, and the generator wasn't running properly, and well, you know, tripping breakers and things like that. And people were like, I don't know what to do. Ah. And I was like, you've got too many things plugged into it. And they're like, what? You know, they had everything daisy chained and all this stuff. I'm like, you have too much amperage going on. You know, you're pulling too much amps. And what? I mean, there's just no knowledge there at all. And so I'm like, well, here you go, watch this. And I unplugged a few things, and it quit tripping the breaker. Well, what are we going to do? How are we going to run our lights? You got to either suffer and not have that many lights, or get another generator. That's it. Anyways, it's just crazy. So the idea or the speculation that possibly they took this chainsaw and modified it with this top cover is just, no, not a chance in hell. No, they just didn't do it. It's silly. Let's not spread that any further. Okay, so the way it works too is this script gets written. Either they have the chainsaw laying around because they borrowed their uncle's, because this was a very low budget film. All of those were back in the day. Hell, they still are. Slasher films are always really low budget, and you go, wow, they spent $5 million on that. That's not low budget. That is extremely low budget. So if they didn't already have the chainsaw, which was clearly a 245A, if you haven't figured it out yet by the pictures that I'm flashing up behind me, then you will right now. The way it works whenever they don't have it is they look at some person, in this case being 1970 or so, they looked at Tom or whoever, and they said, Tom, run down to the hardware store and buy a chainsaw. And Tom was like, I'm on it. And Tom drives his old Volkswagen Bug, or the van that they used. I think it was a Volkswagen, I don't know, but it's not important. Down to the hardware store and goes, I need a chainsaw. And the person behind the counter goes, okay, what do you need? And Tom just goes, oh. And he either asked for the biggest chainsaw you got, which was at the time at a Poulan dealership, this guy right here, or the guy at the hardware shop was like, this idiot doesn't know anything, so I'm going to sell him my highest profit margin saw. Both cases, it would have been this one right here. So, as you can see in the pictures, the Poulan 306A has a flat top to it, and that is not what Leatherface is carrying around. Leatherface is carrying around one of these, which has the humpback. Now this one, if you notice, the decal on it is a little bit different than, well, this one doesn't even have one, does it? No. In the movie, you notice that they've got a strip of black electrical tape going across like this, right there. Well, what they were doing was they were just covering up the Poulan. That's it. They just masked it off because either A, they wanted to, or B, they thought they had to. Doesn't matter. Did these come with a sticker which Poulan was just written straight across the front? Absolutely, they did. This one right here is a later or earlier model that says Poulan in an arch like this, and 245 is like this. Well, they had them both ways. You could have had Poulan going straight across the front there, and they just boop, marked it off with electrical tape. And then, to add to it, you have the idea that Leatherface had to cut up some sides of beef, and he also had to cut up some humans. He was also crazy and a fool, and he wouldn't have taken the smaller chainsaw, even though it would have done just as good. He wanted the big boy, because Leatherface himself is a big boy. So, I hope that has convinced everyone that's out there that possibly has a question as to which it was. That doesn't mean that this can't be used as a Leatherface chainsaw. I went as Leatherface for Halloween a few years back, and I had an old McCulloch. No one knows. People don't know chainsaws like you and I do. An old chainsaw is an old chainsaw, and to everyone at the party, I had the coolest costume there was. So, because I had an actual running chainsaw and I'd fire it up. Ah! So, yeah. The other chainsaws, though, maybe I'll do something later on. I know that I think the chainsaw in the 2004-ish Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he used a, no, I think that was in like 1999 production or something. One of them he used a Husqvarna 359, and I have one of those. He used a steel chainsaw in the weird one in the early 90s, I think, and he used another Poulan in the second Chainsaw Massacre, which was it was red, so it was the Poulan 5200, which was red, which means that it was actually the Craftsman, what they call it, 8500, 5.2, I don't know. But this video is about the original. So your two options are right here. Now, if you want to have this chainsaw, the 306A, and tell your neighbor, yeah, it's the Leatherface chainsaw, you go for it, buddy. I mean, seriously, I don't mind. No problem here. But if you're looking for the actual replica, an actual Leatherface, original 1971 Texas Chainsaw Massacre chainsaw, then what you're looking for is the Poulan 245A. If you think it's something else, you're wrong. See ya.